back live. Your call's coming up here in just a moment. A lot of calls I'm going to take today. 877-590-5525. Okay. Finishing up with the DNA, and then I'm going to mention a few other stories that are coming up. We're going to go to your calls. The whole point is police departments, the feds have been caught, local police, state police, the feds, over and over again, framing everybody. And so they keep drumming into your head, all these people are innocent on death row. DNA testing's so great. Selling you that it's 100%, just like they sell you that fingerprints are. When it's very easy to frame people with fingerprints as well. You just lift their prints from somewhere else, make castings of it, and place them. Just like they've now proven that lie detectors are a complete fraud of quackery that sent literally tens of thousands of innocent people to prison. This is just a bunch of quackery. So, they say law enforcement officials, not servants, officials, said that expanding the DNA database to include legally innocent people will help solve more violent crimes. And then they go on from there. Folks, they've already got your blood. And I learned about this before I was even on air about 15 years ago. And then I've had U.S. congressmen on complaining about it. I've interviewed lawmakers from Australia, where about 6 years ago they started announcing, we have DNA on everyone, born in the last 30-something years. It started worldwide. So there's already a global government. They're just announcing it. We have the same programs, same names everywhere. But they announced a little bit early in Australia, we've been taking your blood since birth. Everybody 31 years, now it'd be 36, 31 years and younger, and we're using this in criminal cases now. They take your baby's blood, they put it in a DNA database. There's also been court cases I've seen the San Francisco Chronicle report on where somebody gets a genetic disease. They go in to have their own bone marrow be pulled to then, breed up these antibodies. There's different procedures. And then they'll be told by the company, guess what? We already had your blood from birth and we patented your DNA and you owe us all this money. Oh, that's right. When you read the mainstream articles about this, or you can go read the thousands of pages of documents where the universities are bragging about it, these little criminal enterprises working with the government and private industry, they take your baby's blood, don't tell you, and then don't just ship it off to a eugenics facility to check your baby's DNA, because they're obsessed with that. The elites are obsessed with that, with breeding. But they also have it to frame you and everything else. Okay, if I don't shut up, I'll never get to your calls. The point is, this is a complete fraud. Israel stands ready to bomb Iran's nuclear sites, Times of London. They say they're getting ready to hit them. It'll probably start World War III. So get ready for that. We'll talk about that later. This is a sophisticated issue, so later in the next hour I'm going to cover it. I don't want to go to calls now, but, Keith Olbermann and all these people have really shown themselves to be shameful. I am nonpartisan. But the level, the dumbing down of the information, the insult of everybody's intelligence has gotten too big for me. I've talked to Lou Dobbs several times privately. He's aware of my work. I've interviewed him. I like Lou Dobbs. He's a good guy, very credible, very serious, nonpartisan. I really respect him. She says he hates black people and that he doesn't want Obama to succeed because he hates black people. Lou Dobbs is the only one that's been nonpartisan in all of this. Fox has kind of played the right-wing card against the left wing in this. Dobbs was very critical of Bush as for being a globalist, wanting one world government, global taxes. I mean, it's all announced. I've talked to Dobbs. He has his own contract. That's why he's allowed to do whatever he wants to CNN. And she said he's a racist. And I got like 5 clips. She went on MSNBC, a bunch of channels, and did this. I'm not going to play them all, but she said Dobbs is a vicious, evil racist. She said anybody who went to tea parties hates black people. Let me tell you something. These limousine liberal pimps, they're the ones that hate black people, and I mean literally. I don't know about Garofalo, who's just a clown. But I know that the founders of what we know of as liberalism wrote in letters and documents and Ford Foundation documents and Rockefeller Brothers documents and Margaret Sanger documents. By the way, I didn't just read mainstream articles about this for my film Endgame. I sent off to universities to get copies of the letters from the papers of Margaret Sanger and the Colgate Foundation and others. She calls black people subhuman weeds. And it's like a sick joke that all these so-called black charities are called Margaret Sanger this, Margaret Sanger that. I went to, in kindergarten, 1 year in Dallas till we moved to Rockwall, I went to Margaret Sanger Elementary School with a statue of her out front. This was a woman who got awards from Hitler, gave awards to Hitler. Now, my whole issue is they talked about how they had to hire blacks to fool the blacks into letting them give them welfare to break up the family so there wouldn't be a man in the house, knowing that would create a breakdown of society. They knew this so they could put young black men in jail. Go read it for yourself. These are cold-blooded people. Blacks had about 10% illegitimacy. Now they're over 90%. I'm not knocking single families. These eugenicists who broke up their communities think, oh, you're against single mothers? No, but you're 3 to 4 times more likely to end up in drugs or prison. Just a fact. And you know what you did. Shame on you. Now, that's how the real racists do. They're limousine liberals. And you get a bunch of good Americans, and we sent cameras down to the San Antonio Tea Party. Tons of black folks, Hispanics there. 98%, most of the polls are 99%, 1,000-to-1 phone calls to Congress against the banker bailout takeover. It's nonpartisan, libertarians, conservatives, liberals. But see, the media wants to make it conservative liberal, so liberals go, well, I better be against the Tea Parties. I better be for the banker takeover. And $12.8 trillion bipartisan spent in 6 months. That's the GDP in 6 months. Half the year since they did that. October to last month, 6 months, and they've already spent an entire U.S. GDP. It's $200 billion short. It's $12.8 trillion. But again, that was only 5 months. They always issue it a month late. So in 5 months, to be technical, but issued on the 6-month anniversary of October 3rd. So it's actually over 13 trillion. But the number is 12.8 trillion we've got. And you say, hey, I don't want to devalue the dollar, bankrupt the country, owe all this fiat money to the private banks. We give the private offshore banks our 12.8 trillion. Then we pay them interest to give them our money. That's how this New World Order fraud works. It was the Ron Paul people, i.e. this show and other talk shows like it, that were having tea parties back in October. We had one in Austin, had them in D.C., had them in Boston, had them in San Diego. That gets partially hijacked by Glenn Beck and other fake conservatives. But so what? I got calls last week from all over the country. I sent a crew out to one of the things in San Antonio. There were about 7,000 people there. Keith Oberman and others say there were less than 10,000 nationwide. Folks, I have seen videos of New York and Atlanta where there was more than 10,000 per city. But notice they cheerlead the illegal aliens, waving Mexican flags, protesting for literally the fall of the United States and bankrupting the states further with all the welfare and Medicaid and Medicare. But then citizens go out and are bipartisan, and they come out not just on CNN and MSNBC, but everywhere and say, period, they hate black people. Now that is just incredible race baiting. Incredible. But that's what the left does, the fake left, the foundation left. They're here to divide and conquer America. They're here to make sure we never come together against the offshore banks, the ultra-rich, the elite setting up world government. See, the big banks brag in Carol Quigley's book and in all these different documents by Rand Corporation and others. They brag that they want big governments that destroy the middle class to get rid of their competition, then transfer all the wealth. Well, here's an example. 30 to 1. For every $1 in welfare, 29 of it goes to the bankers. So that's the bottom line here, and to have her doing this is just incredible. Okay, I promise your call straight ahead. Forrest, Rick, Tom, Matthew, George, Paul, Brian, many others. I'm Alex Jones, Infowars.com, PrisonPlanet.tv has been redesigned and updated with a ton of new info. Check it out. We'll be right back.